What's up, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to another episode of the CHGO Bulls podcast, presented to you by PointsBet. Don't forget that promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. Not steak face.
No steak face?
Although I did look. So one of our listeners yesterday checked in and added steak face.
He did.
It is an active account,
yes,
but it hasn't tweeted since 2009.
Yes. I wonder if we can get it start tweeting again.
I hope so.
Like they probably put all their money into this and said somebody's going to want to buy this from me one day.
Now that it's a thing, I want it.
Yeah.
And I will not tire or give up. In the magic bubble is Will the Goat Gottlieb at Woke Gottlieb. This is Big Dave. He's at Balby AWL Sports. Joey operating the controls per usual. Will, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, and I'm wondering how much you would spend to buy Steakface. What's the magic number?
What's the what?
How much he would
magic
spend
number
to get the name.
To get the rights to the at Steakface Twitter handle?
Yes. What would you?
I would pay $100.
$100?
Yeah.
I'm a little shocked.
I would start my offer at like $10.
Okay.
And then I would work my way up and I would cap myself at $100.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you like this. If anybody out there thinks Matt should have this name and is willing to give $100 to this person that has steak face, please hit them up. Let them know you're willing to give them $100 and see if they go for it and report back.
I would keep my current Twitter handle and my current Twitter account also. I would just use that as my burner. But it would just be the burner that everybody knows is my burner. It would not be an anonymous burner.
What would Will's be then? What would Will's anonymous burner handle be?
Kyle Corver 2525
26, but yeah.
Oh, right, there you go.
Small ball lover.
You probably get some, friend requests that you weren't expecting, brother, with that handle right there. You might not want to do that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what happens when the only thing you think or care about is basketball. That's what you say.
There it is.
True story.
This is true.
Which I'm guessing applies to it's Aquify in the comments saying only 2 months away from Bulls basketball. Yes. High five emoji.
Yes.
Is it really that? I mean, it really is that soon.
It is, man. Early October too. Like preseason starting early. Evo said his handle should be Mr. Thick Thighs.
Okay,
speaking of unwanted attention on Twitter.
What is up with y'all? Like, he's not going to get the request that you guys think he's going to get with those kind of handles. Keep it classy out here for that. That's a classy gentleman in the bubble. Keep it classy out. Save the funk for me and Matt. Keep the class right there for that man, Will Gottlieb, right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe it's like a cute little pet name that only Will start calling Pat. Like when you show up to the first training camp practice that's open to the media and you ask, Pat, your first question after talking to him for the first time in months, just address him as Thick Thighs and see what happens.
Yeah, I'll see what happens. Yeah, I'll give that a try. Sure. You got it, dude.
I love Will.
How's that Nerf shot coming, Thick Thighs?
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Mr. Thick Thighs. Tell about your field goal percentage today.
Yeah. Put a Mr. in there because that'll class it up.
Class it up. Yeah, that class.
You still got to show your respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're calling him Thick
Mr.
Thighs.
Thick Thighs to you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so today we are moving on with our off-season grades and projections, evaluations of all the other teams in the Eastern Conference. We're talking about the Toronto Raptors today. They got a good young squad that finished 5th in the East last season. But before we get to that, we wanted to talk about ESPN's latest NBA summer forecast. They ranked all teams in the Eastern Conference from 1 to 15 with their projected win totals and therefore their finish in the standings for the 22-23 season. Joey, do we have that we could take a look at? Some Bulls fans might be a little peeved. As you see there in the first 6, they referred to this category as the contenders, and it is as you would expect. Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Philly, Toronto, 1 through 5, which other than a couple of teams flipped around at the top, is how the East finished last season.
Yeah.
But then, there at 6, where the Bulls were last season, you see Atlanta Hawks projected at 46 and 36, which was the Bulls' exact same record in the 6th seed last season.
Yeah.
Anything catch your eye here about 1 through 6?
You know what? The only thing that catches my eye probably is Miami being at 3. I would have them just a little lower, but it's not a big deal or anything like that. Honestly, the top 6, even though I don't agree with the Bulls not being in the top 6, I'm not mad about this because I can actually see the logic as to why they would go ahead and not have the Bulls in here and have Atlanta there. I mean, you went and you got another all-star in DeJounte Murray on your team to pair with Trae Young. That's going to be an explosive team and a fun team to watch. I get it. That makes sense, why you would have that there. I personally would just say, I watched what the Bulls did to Atlanta last year, and that was whoop their ass, pretty much the entire time.
Trae wants none of I.O.
And, they got somebody in the backcourt, and the one thing the Bulls do really well is have a defensive backcourt, so they would have some defense provided. But, again, just looking at it on paper and, seeing those two young guns there, I get it, Will. Like, I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Miami-Philly thing. When we did our reviews for those couple of teams, I think we all had Miami falling out of the top 3 and Philly moving into it. So I think that would be a switch for me. Maybe this is controversial, but I think the Hawks are definitely a half step above the Bulls. I think we'll see where exactly they end up, but I think the top 6 is right. I think that's probably how it will shake out. And we can get into more like why I think that, but ultimately it just comes down to like, what kind of improvements are you going to make this year? And is the same sort of season that you got from DeMar, are you able to replicate that? Meanwhile, for the Hawks, it's like they've got a 23-year-old already superstar. They added another all-star. They have Okongwu and DeAndre Hunter and John Collins, all guys that are getting better. And so I just wonder, like, if the Bulls are going to be able to keep up with the improvement that other teams are, experiencing.
Yeah, and it's actually not that big of a leap when you think about it. Last season, Atlanta finished 43-39.
Yeah.
So these projections by ESPN are basically adding 3 wins to their total from last season, saying, okay, you're adding DeJounte Murray to now have one of the more lethal backcourts, pairing him with Trae in the entire Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
It's decent logic to say that's 3 wins. You can add 3 wins to that team.
Yeah.
And if some of those other young players that we'll just rattle off take a step forward, it's not a big leap. It's just sort of a question of, all right, are the Bulls flatlining, or, as we'll take a look at in a second, maybe even regressing from where they were last season, versus Atlanta adding a handful of wins, and that's why Atlanta sneaks into the top 6 instead of the Bulls. Joey, now let's look at that play-in category that ESPN had in their forecast, 7 through 10. There you see Cleveland also ahead of the Bulls by just 1 win at 45-37. The Bulls in the 8th seed slot at 44-38, which would be 2 fewer wins than last season. Brooklyn and the New York Knickerbockers rounding out the top 10. Are either of you guys surprised by the fact that they see the Bulls as a team that can't even match their win total from last season when they are essentially returning the same roster with maybe a couple of bench pieces that are slight upgrades in Drummond and Dragic?
Now, this is where their logic kind of loses me. Yes, I'm a little surprised by that, to answer your question. The Bulls, in my opinion, are going to be better than Cleveland. But the one that gets me is the Brooklyn Nets one, because I don't know what Brooklyn is yet.
Nobody knows.
So it's hard for me to sit and decipher if they're going to be that, low of a seed, because if Kevin Durant is there, I'm not picking them to be the 8 seed. Like, they're a little higher. So we'll just go with that logic that they have right there, and I'll leave it right there because no one knows. But, yeah, I have the Bulls over Cleveland too, because, the other team the Bulls whooped on last year, it was Cleveland. Like, they whooped on them too as well. I don't think they're there yet. I think they got some more growing to do. They're going to be an issue. I mean, you got 2 all-stars on your team, Jared Allen and Garland. And, of course, Karis LeVert, who I've always really liked, is really good. And Larry Markkinen is good in his role, because all he has to do is shoot threes. He's going to get a game where he's going to give you 30 points. It's going to happen.
And they also have the question mark of Sexton, who is still currently unsigned. What are they going to do with him?
Correct, yeah. I don't know what's going to go on with him.
Evan Mobley, too.
And, yeah, I was getting him, yes. And Mobley, who is just going to continue to grow and get better. That dude is a monster, a young Chris Bosh in the making right there. So, yeah, I get that, but the Bulls still whoop them. It's my point, because they're still young, and they still got things to do, and the Bulls are still running them dudes off the floor, whether they had their whole lineup or they had half their lineup. They was giving it to Cleveland. So, yeah, I don't have Cleveland taking that leap over the Bulls.
Yeah, I think the Bulls in Cleveland are – I agree with what you said about the Bulls being better in like a head-to-head contest, but I also think the Cavs could and just wind up with a better record based on like the way that the season shakes out. I think they're probably in a same tier. If they played each other in a play-in game, I would definitely take the Bulls, but I think they're approximately right. They also really struggled with health last year when Ricky Rubio went down. They basically fell off a cliff. So like, I don't know. We talk about like how important Lonzo is to the Bulls. It's kind of a similar situation with the Cavs and Rubio's. Like, is he really like the most important player in your team? And if so, how good are you really? I also think they have a ton of room to grow. Like Mobley is going to be a defensive player of the year. He just is. He's that good. Jarrett Allen's already at an all-star level. Darius Garland really exploded last year and has been awesome. So they, again, are another one of these teams that just has more room for internal growth. I think if you look at where the Bulls finished last year, I don't think they'll be quite so bad. Obviously, you expect Lonzo to come back at some point, and I do think that they'll reach a higher high than they were, but it's just tricky for me to sit here and say that they'll be as good as they were last year or better when all these other teams got a lot better. And we'll talk about the Raptors here in a bit as well, but yeah, I worry about it. I don't want to be too negative, but it's more of like a concern because of the improvements that the other teams can have, whether it's going out and getting free agent all-stars or making trades for all-stars or just having players that develop into all-stars.
Yeah. People in the comments kind of commenting on the possibility the Bulls use this as motivation. We had the whole DeMar, we're signing the offseason stuff last year.
Yeah.
This year, the Bulls projected to finish 8th. I think, weren't they projected to finish like at the bottom of the play-in last season?
Very, very bottom
and
of the play-in.
Certainly proved some people wrong there. Al Alova in the comments saying the Bulls should at least be in the 4th spot. Motivation. Michael Shower saying, I thank the media for the season we're about to have. Honestly, they're giving our team all kinds of ammo. Adam pointing out that the Bulls went 2-20 against playoff teams last season. So are they saying we'll go 0-22 this year? And that kind of ropes into what you were just saying there, Will, is like, I think it's weird to say that this Bulls team will win fewer games this coming season as they did last season because they beat the bad teams consistently last year. They let a couple of bad games go against mediocre teams they should have beaten, and then they were also in some games against the elite teams in the league that they could have won, maybe should have won, and didn't. Maybe it's naive of me to think so, but I look at that ghastly record that they had against the top teams in the league last season and say, they're going to win more of those games this season with the same core of players, with another year of experience playing together. And, hopefully a lot of this, knock on wood, goes back to if their core players are out there and available and playing. But come on, it stands to reason DeMar, Zach, Vooch, these experienced guys leading the way, they can win more of those games against the top level competition than the 1 or 2 that they won collectively all of last year.
Well, look at it this way. When we talk about DeMar DeRozan, and we talked about and discussed it yesterday, saying the season that he had might have been an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Might have been like, because, wow, that was incredible. We'll probably never, ever do that again. 2-20 against playoff teams is also an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? That's also not something a team with all the talent that they have usually goes through and then does it again, you know what I'm saying, the next season. So I can look at that the same way I can look at people's critiques of DeMar DeRozan. That's kind of what I do here. I think the Bulls will be better against these teams. But again, all this stuff, and we keep knocking on this, but it depends on health a lot, because a lot of these things had to do with health, had to do with COVID, had to do with the injuries, so on and so forth. But yeah, like you're not going to go 2-20 against playoff teams. I just don't see that, Will, as a thing that the Bulls will have happen to them again.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems unlikely. It was kind of crazy as it was happening last year. We're like, is this really true? Like that they're going to just not win any of these games? Like, though, I think it was just the one that they beat the Celtics in like October, November, right? And then the rest of the way, they couldn't get a win against any of these teams. Just kind of insane. And so maybe you're right, by just happenstance, they even things out. Maybe Miami got a little bit worse. They played, I thought, the Bucks pretty well in the first 2 games, obviously, and who knows what's going to happen with health on other teams. But I think that the idea that you have to bank on health, I think they're weighing that into the win total here. And so 45 wins. I think that sounds about right. And it's just a matter of like how they finish out against some of the other teams. So I don't think the Bulls necessarily did anything on paper to help their chances against some of these teams, but they also could just, to your point, be better based on the fact that it was so weird. And, there has to be some regression there.
Adam in the comments pointing out that P. Will only played 17 games last season. Lonzo only 35. Caruso 41. I don't think that happens again. And I saw our biggest post-All-Star break issue was defense. I mean, and again, I think we all agree Lonzo is the biggest question mark of those three names, but P. Will playing closer to 71 instead of 17.
Yeah.
Caruso playing closer to 82 instead of 41. And everyone, whatever rabbit's foot you got lying around, Lonzo closer to 70-something than 35. That's more wins. Those three players playing more games, and hopefully a lot more games than they each independently played last season, should add up to more wins.
Here's the pushback I'll give you, Adam, on the other side of that. I'm with you, actually, on the P. Will one. You're right. I don't see that 17 happening again. But Lonzo has never played over like 60 games in his career.
This is true.
And Caruso is not a guy who's going to give you a lot of games either because of the weight and the style that he plays. He gets hurt, you know what I'm saying, unless, it's something dirty and trashy by Matt. What do you call him? Dipshit.
Captain Dipshit?
Captain Dipshit.
Thank you very much, yes. Unless it's something dirty by him, you know what I'm saying? That's what puts him out. But Caruso's not a guy that's going to be there a lot, and Lonzo's not a guy to be there a lot. A lot of that is going to depend. That's what we talk about Ayo a lot. And his growth, because his growth is going to be important in this as well. But that's the only pushback I'll give you on that. Everything is kind of knock on wood when it comes to that health of Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. So, yeah, hopefully they'll be healthy and it will be okay for them to actually play more than 60 games between the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, health is the key. And I think it's too bad that, you kind of have to factor in missed games for the Bulls more than some of these other teams. But at the same time, the Heat are getting old. Jimmy misses a ton of games. Some of these other teams are, whether it's I think the Celtics are probably safe from this just in terms of their depth and ability to sit guys out or have rest games or whatever, load management, and still win a lot of games because of how good and deep they are. But maybe the Sixers lose James Harden for 2 weeks and that costs them a few games, or Giannis is just coasting a little bit more because they're going to be a top 2 seed. They can afford to do that. So maybe the Bulls get a few extra wins that way. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just think, I think it's just a more difficult road this year than it was last year.
Will, let me ask you, Joey. I don't mean to tear you away from what you're doing over there. Can you get me the top 6 back up on the screen, please? Can I see that for a second? Because I want to ask you one question. Of those 6, who is the most healthiest team to you? Just looking at that top 6, who's the healthiest team in your opinion?
Probably the Celtics. Like I said, they just have the most depth to withstand any injury. The Heat are a pretty old team. The Sixers are, they have some young players and they got much deeper, but I mean, PJ Tucker, Harden, Embiid, not all beacons of health over the last couple of years. I think the Raptors are another team that's we'll talk about them, but they kind of just play 6 guys. And so if any of them goes down, that could be disaster mode. So I think it's possible that any of these teams lose games to injury. And, you kind of have to think about that every year. It's just, I think going into the season, having Lonzo be a big question mark is the issue here, where we know how good he was and how important he was to the team. And he's going into next season having missed more than half of the games, still not certain. It's just, I think, a little scary.
Yeah.
Well, like a lot of teams in the East that were playoff teams last season, the Raptors very much so also believers in continuity and keeping their core together. We're going to evaluate everything the Raptors did in their offseason coming up next in just a minute. But first, Big Dave, tell the people about the points and the bets and the points bets.
The stuff that you can get the money on and still support what we doing here at CHGO. And we'll even give you stuff for doing it. All you got to do is download that app, that PointsBet app, y'all, and use the code CHGO when you sign up. And when you do that, right now, you'll get those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that is not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you will receive that free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of that awesome web content, and you'll even get the free T-shirt of your choice. From where, Joey?
That CHGO Lacha.
Oh, that's 2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free T-shirt from that CHGO Lacha. All for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. It's your home for live in-play betting, and it just got even better. Is your team primed for a comeback? See your edge in the game that you're watching? Like this dude when he's watching like 8 TVs on a Sunday? He sees it, so he'll be betting live because it's more live betting, more live markets, and faster live cash outs. I said faster live cash outs. Follow along with your bets the moment they hit and stay in the live action all game long. Download the PointsBet app right now. Use that promo code CHGO because I don't know what you're waiting for. It's time to elevate your live game betting because once the game starts, you don't just bet. Will the thrill from Brazil tell them how you feel?
You live your bet life.
Yes, he was.
Yes, it was.
Today's episode also brought to you guys by FOCO. Chicago sports fans, your home for the best Chicago sports coverage, that's us, is partnering with a leader in sports, merchandise, and collectibles. CHGO has teamed up with FOCO to secure your access to the best collectibles and gear around. Whether it's Bears, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Bulls, FOCO will have something for you, your kid, your friend's pet fish, anybody and everybody. Looking to get some new gear, collectibles, or accessories? FOCO has officially licensed gear for men, women, kids, with everything from bobbleheads to swimsuits to Crocs and more.
Crocs.
I am probably going to do some shopping for some new Bears gear.
I thought you were going to say some new Birks, honestly.
No.
I really thought you were going to say that.
Come on now. This is a new pair.
Excuse me.
I got
I'm
at
sorry.
least 4 years out of these now,
4 years?
depending on how I treat them. But no,
So too.
There's some dope Bear stuff on Foco.com, and
That's true.
we're getting closer and closer. We got preseason football coming up like this weekend.
On the way, baby. Let's watch them.
So go to Foco.com, check out their awesome Bears inventory of stuff. Foco's got you covered with the best Chicago merchandise of all of your favorite Chicago teams. So head on over to Foco.com, that's FOCO.com, or click the link below this episode, this YouTube description, and you can get 10% off all non-pre-sale items when you use promo code CHGO at checkout. Again, that's Foco.com, FOCO.com, promo code CHGO for 10% off all non-pre-sale items. Check them out!
And it's FOCO.
Faux show.
Come on, Joey.
I got you.
Matt had that one.
I got it. I know you think I'm not
know where
paying
you were
attention,
No,
but
I
I'm
wasn't
here.
even for you. You just stole the ball from him and scored.
Didn't know where you were going.
I was passing it to Matt, and Joey said, I got this. Give me the ball, man. I'll take it from him.
All right, guys, let's talk Raptors basketball, shall we?
Let's do this.
They did not have a first-round pick this year,
Yeah.
the 2022 draft, because they owed it to San Antonio for Thaddeus Young.
Bad.
I mean, talk about people who are worth giving up a first-round draft pick for.
Yeah.
Thaddeus Johnson,
Magic Johnson, man.
absolutely qualifies.
Still beloved here, sir.
So that trade that went down with San Antonio at this past season's trade deadline is why the Raptors did not have a first-round pick. However, they may have gotten themselves a gem in the second round. Early second round, 33rd overall pick, they took Christian Coloco out of Arizona, who I remember watching a little bit of because some people thought he could sneak into the first round, but was not quite in that Bulls late teens range.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I rewatched his scouting report from our guy, Coach Spo, Adam Spinella of the Box and One, who we had with us on draft night, if you recall.
Shout out.
Shout out to him. And I fell in love with this Christian Coloco kid all over again. There you see the measurement, 7'1", 7'5" wingspan. This kid is a shot blocking machine.
Yeah.
Machine. 2.8 blocks per game in 25 minutes per game
Yeah.
in his junior year.
You know what I like about him? He didn't really start playing basketball until like he was 17 years old.
Correct.
Because it was like soccer. You know
Correct.
what I'm saying, for him.
You know, because much like his new teammate Pascal Siakam, soccer is the sport in Cameroon.
This is true.
They grew up in the same hometown in
Yeah,
Cameroon.
they did.
Wild.
That's a vibe right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's a connection right there. But yeah, I like the fact that, and I'm saying that to say he was like, okay, I'm gonna stop because I know I'm tall. And what can I do because I'm tall?
Right.
I can't go out here and I can block these shots and do it well, like all the time. Everything else, honestly, I think he can pick up. Because if you look at his weaknesses, they're like, well, yeah, he's not a great three-point shooter. I'm like, 7-1. You know what I'm saying? Not too many great three-point shooters at 7-1 here like that. Of course, he's not going to, have that game around the rim. If he did, he wouldn't have went in the second round. You know what I'm saying? If he could do all those things. So a lot of that stuff, I think he can pick up. But the fact that he can do that now and do it at such a high clip is what I'm saying. I like that about him, man. He's tall and he's strong about it, man. And I really do enjoy it. You're right. He's fun to watch on the defensive end, and they were kind of lacking that because they don't play with a center usually. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they got rid of Valanciunas, and they called in Will Gottlieb and was like, we small balling this to death all day long, baby dog. So, yeah, I like the fact that bringing him in and that they just to have a guy like that on your team when you're lacking it is a great thing, Will.
I do love the way that the Raptors have built their roster. They can just play a bunch of 6'8" wings together who can all shoot, dribble, pass, defend with Siakam, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby. Obviously, they have Van Vliet and Gary Trent now as well, who are awesome. But I really like Koloko. I had him in the first round. I actually do think he'll be able to shoot a little bit. His free throw percentage went up significantly every year. As you said, he didn't start playing until much later. So that sort of improvement really speaks to his touch. Watched him a bit in summer league, and his mobility is great. I think it comes from that soccer background of just being able to move his feet well. I think he kind of fits the Raptors style as far as super long, super athletic, the ability to get up and down the floor. He provides some vertical spacing. I think, like I said, he'll be able to step out and shoot some catch and shoot threes at some point in his career, but really like him, really like the fit there. And they've been kind of searching for an answer at center that really fits their style. Obviously, they had Valanciunas, they had Marc Gasol when they won the championship, but now they've kind of pivoted more towards Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa, of these super athletic rim roller guys that can block shots and shoot threes. I think Koloko fits that mix, and he could, win out a starting job, in a couple of years. I think he's got a ton of potential. I really like him.
Yeah. I was listening to Nick Nurse's interview. What?
Interview. I was going to say band. Excuse me.
Nick Nurse's interview after draft night, and he was talking about the things that he likes about this kid, Christian Koloko, out of Arizona. And he was saying, he'll probably get some run and some heavier minutes with the 905 Raptors of the G League, but that he could anticipate him coming in and giving some minutes to the real Raptors this upcoming season because, as y'all mentioned, he's a legit center, whereas the Raptors are we're just going to play 5 wings. Yes. Deal with it. Or we're going to play a guard and 4 wings. Deal with it. He can offer them a lot of things that still fit the Raptor style of basketball, but on just a bigger frame. Right. And he his finishing, his radius for finishing as the roll guy in pick and rolls at Arizona, very impressive. Yeah. You throw it up anywhere in the general vicinity, and he's like Megatron, on a football field. He'll catch it. Yeah. I don't know if I share your optimism for him developing that shot. I know you said at some point in his career, this dude cannot shoot a basketball. He can't even shoot a basketball from 6 feet. He's got no hook shot. All of his stuff around the rim, unless it's literally an in motion, all one motion catch and finish, most often dunking, he's got no touch. So I don't believe in that. But the shot blocking, the rim protection, the rebounding, the boxing out on the defensive end, and being just a simple, very cut and dry roll man on offense, he can offer the Raptors a lot, I think, even as a rookie.
Yeah, he took 5 threes in his entire 3-year college career. So I'm not saying he's going to come out here and start shooting 40% on 5 attempts per game. But I just think the idea of his touch and his constant year after year improvement speaks to potential there. So, I'm with you for sure, but I'm hoping for his sake that he can start to stretch it out at some point.
Yeah. Let me ask you though, Matt, just looking at how would you judge his soccer game?
Well, I haven't seen him play soccer.
Just watching his movement and things you're seeing on the court, do you think that he could actually get out there and he can play that sport?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Whether it's guys who come from Africa or guys who come from Europe, whenever there's a dead ball situation, a timeout on the floor on a basketball court,
they start.
You saw Tony Kukoc do it back in the day. You see Luka Doncic do it. What do? They start juggling a basketball with their feet.
Steve Nash.
Same deal.
It's true.
So yes, I believe dude's a hell of a soccer player.
All right.
Colin saying maybe he's a bigger Gafford. Ooh.
Oh.
Did you see your boy Gafford on that big man chart that we were talking about the other day?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
Crushing it.
Yeah,
Crushing
he's doing
it.
what he does, man. He's going to be in the league for a while.
Keep doing your thing, Daniel Gafford.
And I like how, and I think that's the thing about this too. I love how they draft. They always get the right fit. You know what I'm saying? It's been a few years that they haven't gotten somebody that I'm like, they don't fit with that team. Why did they do that? You know,
Right.
like everybody kind of fits with them. And with him, I think he'll definitely get that chance. Like you and Will were saying, they don't have a center. Like they just simply don't have that. And seeing him on the court, you see where he fits in, because one thing the Raptors do well is they pass the ball, and you mentioned, well, like he gets that rim running, around the rim, he gets some alley-oops, and they play defense. Like those are the two things they do well all the time. So, and he fits both of those things, you know what I mean? Catching the ball, dunking it with the alley-oop, and playing really great defense. So, yeah, I think he'll fit in nicely with these Raptors.
So they basically retained some key players in free agency. They did bring in one new actual free agent acquisition, that being our old pal and recent NBA champion, Otto Porter Jr., who signed to a 2-year, $12.3 million deal. I think retaining Chris Boucher and Thad Young were both very key moves. The star of Adam Sandler's movie Hustle, right? That was the name of it?
Yes, that's correct.
Juancho Hernangomez also joining Toronto on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
But Chris Boucher always to me was a sneaky little wish list guy for the Bulls.
Yes.
Because I thought he could do some solid things for the Bulls that they needed. But first impression of adding Otto Porter Jr. to this Raptors core, Dave?
I mean, yeah, cool. I mean, I'm not super high on Otto. I never have been. I don't hide that. Yes, I'm still a little, jaded what he did when he was here. And even what I saw him doing in Washington, he wasn't great. He was always hurt. And he did exactly what I said he was going to do when he got to the Warriors. I was like, oh, miraculously, he's going to be healed, and he's going to provide dividends for that team. Watch. And now, as soon as he did that, I'm like, he's going to get his contract, and now he might be chilling again. So we'll see. You know what I'm saying, what he's like. But just on paper, you're like, yeah, he's a good fit for this team. You know what I'm saying? Another guy who's a wing, another guy who can shoot the ball, and then another guy who can be solid on defense. So he can definitely contribute for that team off the bench, Will. Because I know, Will, you're definitely more high on Otto Porter Jr. than I am.
I mean, he's just a really good shooter with size, and you can't really have enough of those. I'm not saying like I think he's going to be a 35-minute-a-game guy for them and starting, but they've got a team that is really long and athletic. I think they can mask some of his deficiencies, but every team needs spacing. Everybody, there just isn't enough spacing in the league. And so to get him on basically the taxpayer mid-level, they didn't get hard capped by it. They stayed under the tax, which I think is obviously important for a team that's going after Kevin Durant. I just think that they managed their cap well and got guys that fill needs. So I like Otto Porter from that standpoint. Obviously, Thad was awesome with the Bulls, did not play very well last year. But again, they extended him as opposed to signing him outright as a free agent. That means that they can trade him. So another move by Masai Ujiri where maybe you just start to package some of these guys in a deal and go out and get yourself a Kevin Durant. So they had some tricky stuff going on there.
They are still a team that's being talked about as sort of a dark horse for Kevin Durant. Did you guys see that report from Ian Begley of SNY today that now the Sixers are apparently also in the mix? Because, KD and Harden need to reunite a fourth time.
Oh, my goodness. Wait, so KD, Harden, and Embiid? Oh, my God.
But that report also stated that the Raptors are sort of still sneakily in the mix.
That's me.
Marcus in the comments saying, Otto's coming off a championship and getting paid. He'll definitely show up 15 pounds overweight. See, that's where I'm at with the question of how much Otto Porter Jr. can bring to the Raptors this year. He just was very useful for the Warriors, knocking down big shots in playoff games, big playoff moments. Got himself a chip. Drank all of the champagne in the greater Bay Area out there. Yeah. Dude will not do a goddamn thing for the Raptors this year. I guarantee you. He is done contributing.
But I think Will is right in what he's saying because, he's right. Like, he's not going to be asked to play all those minutes, but just be that guy to come in and be that spot, those spot minutes where he can hit some buckets, and spread the floor a little bit. He could definitely do that and still be 15 pounds overweight, you know what I mean, and get away with that. But I do kind of more lean to your side. Man.
I refuse to believe that he will be healthy, available, and bought in emotionally and mentally. But if he is, it makes sense. As John Doe points out in the comments, he's a career 39% shooter behind the arc. And the Toronto team offensively, and especially a little bit of scoring punch off the bench, could very much use a guy like that.
Yeah, very much.
Because they are an elite defensive team. When the Raptors struggle, it's finding ways to score, especially in a half-court offense.
Yeah.
So a player like Otto, a shooter like Otto, could definitely help. And then, pretty much other than that, they're returning a core that includes, of course, Siakam, Van Vliet, who's coming off an injury, OG Anunoby, who had a lot of games missed due to injury last season, but is a heck of a player. And then, of course, we got to talk about this guy for a minute. Rookie of the year, Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes, man.
Woo!
He's going to get better. He's only going to get better, man. That dude is going to be a complete monster. I like it because I like his mentality already. He already gets on the floor, and he plays like I'm the best player out here on the floor. And I like that from him on both sides. Like, he takes pride in defense. You know what I mean? He takes real pride in that. Something that, younger guys don't really come in with. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. But he takes real pride in shutting you down and scoring 25, 30 points on you, man. But, yeah, he's got a really, really high upside for that team, man. So just having him, and if Siakam is healthy, that's just a mean front court.
Save all the wood walking, the wood knocking for the Bulls players.
Oh, okay. I'm
Toronto.
Sorry. I'm nice.
Wood knocking.
How dare I, want to see players not be hurt?
That's not if they're not wearing a Bulls jersey.
Can I use this one and use that one for the Bulls and use this one for
yes.
the Okay.
Our mutual
Mutual
side table.
All right. For the Bulls.
You can only knock on wood for Bulls goodness.
Yes. All right.
You want to wish other people good luck and good health and good fortune. Do it over fucking there.
All right. I'll do it here on this side. Yes, Will. He's like that.
He is very much like that. And you know who else is like that? Pascal Siakam. He had like an all-NBA caliber season. I think people kind of forgot about him for some reason because he missed a few games at the beginning of the season. He ended up playing 68 games, 23, 8.5, 5.3 on 49, 34, and 75. So he played at an all-NBA caliber level. As you said, Scotty Barnes is just I hate to say it, but everything I want Patrick Williams to be. And Fred VanVleet is a star. They have a really good foundation. Plus you've got OG Anunoby, who I think has a ton of room for development. Gary Trent had a breakout season last year. They just are a very complete team. They play to an identity, and they just absolutely mess you up defensively with their length. And Koloko fits that. Otto Porter fits that. Thad Young fits that. They continue to make moves that fit who they are. They have a very clear picture of who they are. And I like who they are because they play small and fast and athletic.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they do, man. They're fun to watch, honestly. And they're a problem. And they got that fourth quarter thing. They got that we won a championship thing about them. You know what I'm saying? And I like that so much. And great coaching, too.
They also are returning a guy who went on an absolute tear for a stretch of the season in Gary Trent Jr., who can on certain nights just decide if the Raptors are in one of those, we need somebody to get buckets. We need somebody other than Pascal or Fred VanVleet, or if one of them is out, who's getting buckets? Gary Trent Jr. could just be that guy who's like, oh, yeah, I'll take 25 shots and drop 35 points tonight.
Yeah, easily. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, that was a great pickup when they made that trade. I remember I was yelling about it a lot. But, yeah, it's a great fit for them. And it's they're stockpiling wings like OKC was stockpiling draft picks.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just have them all. And they're we're going to use them all. And I like it because it's not like they're just having them there to do nothing. You know what I mean? And no, they use them all. When Fred VanVleet, who is their only point guard, by the way, he's the only point guard on their team. But they're no, even when he's not out there, they can run anybody at the point guard position. That's not something they do in the NBA a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's usually a set position when it comes to point guard, because it's positionless basketball for sure, but that point guard position is usually a set position. They don't believe in that in Toronto. Gary Trent Jr., you get out there, you do it. You know what I'm saying? OG Anunoby, you want to bring the ball up? Siakam, how you handles? You know what I mean? They don't care. They're just about, moving the ball, getting everyone involved, You know what I'm saying? Scoring the right bucket, the easy bucket within the scheme, and then getting back on defense, man. So, yeah, it's a new style. I know Will loves it. It's very much fun to watch.
And they also specialize in player development and turning guys into really good players, if not stars, like Van Vliet, undrafted, Siakam, late first round pick, OG, mid-teens pick. They just turn these guys into really good players. And I think that's a skill. It comes from, really good coaching and really good player development staff. And you see it with teams like the Miami Heat, that comes in so handy, becomes a part of your identity and allows you to go all in on maybe a star player here or there, because on the back end, you can develop guys in-house.
On that note, Will, real quick, I think Precious Achua is primed for a big breakout. Good handle, can shoot, just like a lot of other guys on this team. I thought he was good on the Heat, and I just think it's going to end up being another piece that the Raptors kind of bought low on. Yeah. And a couple years later is going to be just an impactful piece for them.
Yeah, they're
crazy.
They're sort of like back end rotation guys. They're back end helpers. Him, Svi Mikhailiuk, Kem Birch, who also is going to be coming back off of an injury.
Birch. Yeah.
Dude, also, side note, as far as random role players on rosters, if you were to make a 3-on-3 team of the best collection of names of 3-on-3 trios, Kem Birch, Svi Mikhailiuk, and Precious Achua. You kidding me?
I'll throw Siakam in there too.
Unbeatable 3-on-3 names lineup.
I mean, Pascal Siakam should be in that lineup too.
Oh yeah,
That's
sure.
damn awesome. But Will, you were saying something.
I was just gonna say, Precious Achua is so freaky athletic, and just sometimes will do stuff that makes your jaw just drop all the way to the floor, because it's the most insane athletic thing that you can imagine somebody who's 6'10" can do. And then sometimes he just makes the worst decisions you could ever possibly see. Watching him is such a crazy experience of absolutely terrible and absolutely amazing. And I agree, Joey, because they've got such a good track record of developing players, it's probably going to start trending towards the one direction and not the other.
Yeah, it's cool. He took 0 pull-up threes. He took 0 threes in his rookie season with Miami, and last season he was up to two a game on 36%. That's a massive leap.
Yeah,
so
I mean, people were talking about him in Miami he was going to be a difference maker, an X factor in this league. So I'm trying to remember, was he included in the Kyle Lowry sign-in trade? Is that how he ended up in Toronto?
Will?
I believe so, yeah.
I believe so. I'm going to go with Will.
Mark in the comments asking, do you think the Raptors have a better record than they did last year? That's a great question to segue us into our grades and projections for Toronto for the upcoming season. But before that, Big Dave, tell the people about the Owen.
Oh, you got to have it in your life. You got to have it like Will got to have that AG. Got to have it like Matt got to have steak face for his new handle. You need some Owen in yourself, sir. That 100% plant-based protein shake that gives you nutrition that works as hard as all of us up in here do. And their products are free of artificial ingredients, allergen-friendly, no gluten or dairy, and it's kind to your tummy tum-tum. It is easily digestible. Owen and Chicago have partnered up to give you this awesome offer. You can get 20% off your first purchase at liveowen.com using that code CHGO20. That's liveowen.com using the code CHGO20. Get yourself 20% off your purchase. You know who else might be cool with using that? Who else want to use that? That man they call QB1, Justin Fields, who's getting ready for that preseason game, Matt. What you want to see in that preseason game? What you want to see?
Some completed passes would be great.
Yeah, our bar's low.
And
our bar's
then
low.
just nobody get hurt.
Yeah, bar's low.
Bar is low.
Yeah, it's super low. Yeah, a couple of completions and God forbid a touchdown, maybe. I know I'm getting beside myself, but that'd be nice. But we like to see all those things. And like I said, just go to liveowen.com. Use that code CHGO20. Get yourself 20% off your first purchase and join us and Justin Fields and try Owen, because it is only what you need. Because as always, y'all, wins. Joey!
Win.
I didn't expect that to go that long. I don't know where that
The
came
last
from.
no kind of lingered there.
I don't know where that came from. That's just how it happened.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, gentlemen. So where do we think the Raptors will end up in the 22-23 season? Finished with the 5th seed last year, 48-34, 2 games, 2 wins ahead of Chicago in the 6th seed. Let's start with grades for their off seasons. You guys a little bit kinder than me. I gave them a C+ because, like a lot of these teams in the East that we've discussed already, basically just bringing the old crew back.
You know what? I had it at C++. And then
double plus?
And then this morning I woke up and I said, give them a B-. And then I immediately regretted it. And I said, no, they should have a C++.
Immediately regret this decision.
Immediately regret this decision. It's been a ghastly mistake. But yeah, I'm okay with them having a C+. Like you said, they're bringing everybody back. It wasn't no big thing that happened, but the reason I went with B-, it was just because I loved it so much, because I see how everything kind of fits for them. You know, it's like a perfect puzzle piece. Everything kind of just clicks into place when you put it in there. But I should have stuck with my C++. I should have rolled with that. I'm not mad that Will has it at a B. It's not upsetting to me or anything like that. But yeah, like I think everything they did is correct. You know what I'm saying? It falls in line with what they want and the team they want to be. So yeah, I'm cool with them.
Yeah, I think I probably was on the B- plus train, if that makes sense, and ended up going with a B. I'm not, B- would have been fair. I think even C+ is fine. I just like what they did from a cap perspective in terms of bringing in tradable contracts, bringing in guys that match their identity and fit a certain style of play, and then, just like maintaining that flexibility to be able to go out and make a big swing for Kevin Durant if they are able to. Yeah. So staying under the cap, staying under the tax, bringing in tradable contracts, fitting their style of play and identity, and then internal room for development. Like, I just think that's really good. That's like for not getting a star off the bat, like that's about as good as you can do.
Yeah, and the contracts they did sign were very manageable, what I would call team-friendly deals. Otto was 2 for 12.
Yeah.
Boucher, and keeping him, as I saw somebody just mentioned in the comments, was huge. I was talking about how much I would have loved the Bulls to steal him. 3 years, 35. Thad coming back, 2 years, 16. These are all very modest, manageable deals for some of your role players, and I think that's when NBA teams can get in trouble, is when they give star-sized contracts to role-sized players.
True indeed.
And the Toronto Raptors have already all of their key star players under contract and retained their important role guys on very manageable contracts.
Yeah, they did what a good team does, a team that win does. You keep the guys that got you there and you add little bits to them and you grow it that way. So, yeah, they did good. I did good. One thing, the one thing, Will, that was keeping me at a C++ is I still am concerned that, and I know I just said all those things, but I'm still concerned that they don't have another point guard on the team. I love point guard. As you know, Will, my point guardsmanship, you know this. But yes, I like the fact, I like when you have a backup point guard on your team. I think that honestly kind of hurt them. I like the style they were playing, but I think that was hurting them against teams like the Bulls because, again, it was another team the Bulls were whooping on, you know what I'm saying, during the season. But they had nobody in the backcourt to go, and the Bulls' depth is where? In the backcourt. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I want them to have a backup point guard, and because Van Fleet, he's going to get hurt. You know what I'm saying? He plays so hard and so tough, man. That
worth pointing out that Van Vliet tied for the league lead in minutes per game last season at 38. He was tied with his teammate Pascal Siakam.
Yo, son. Both of them were hurt.
Nick Nurse taking a page out of the old Thibodeau playbook.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And both of those guys were hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like during the year, man. So I would want them to have some help at that position. That's all.
Yeah, totally agree. I think you're right that they play a style where Siakam runs a lot of point. Obviously, you have Thad Young in there, Thaddeus Johnson, who can run some point. But basically, everybody has to dribble, pass, shoot in their system. But you're right. Like if they lose Van Vliet to injury, especially with how much they're leaning on him minutes-wise, they could be in a lot of trouble. And that's a really important thing to look at when you're considering like the sort of rankings in the top of the East.
We have a couple of skeptics of the Raptors in the comments. Chief C saying Toronto destined for the NBA treadmill. McCoy Music saying Toronto's overhyped. Their schedule going into the playoffs last season was easier than the Bulls, which is why they seeded higher. So the Raptors did leapfrog the Bulls in the back end of the season. As we recall, Bulls went 8 and 15 after the All-Star break. But okay, the schedule is a schedule. It's either front loaded with tough games or back loaded with tough games.
Right.
It's not like the Raptors had an easier overall schedule than the Bulls. They each played 82 games and won the games they won and lost the games they lost.
Yeah.
The Bulls had a very gentle start to their schedule, which is why they jumped out and were a top seed in the East. Then they had a gauntlet out of the All-Star break and lost a bunch of those games. It all balances out.
Sure.
To use the schedule as an argument of like, oh, well, Toronto's not actually better than the Bulls. Their schedule was just easy out of the All-Star. Yeah, and what happened? Their overall 82-game record was better than the Bulls.
You can say it in the sense of why they got to where they got in the playoffs because the games were easier towards the back end. I get that, but yeah, what he said.
Shout out to Shahid with a comment that's very kind, saying, I wanted to just say thank you. You guys are the best. You get me through the workday every day.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
You and Pat and Hazel Locked On, Best Bulls podcast on YouTube. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you for tuning in. Nothing but love here at
Looking
Bulls
out,
Nation.
Shahid. My man. Good looking.
So, real quick, throw that up one more time, Joey. We all have, I believe, the Raptors in the same tier of finishing somewhere 4 through 6. So, not a top 3 seed in the East, but avoiding the play-in.
Yeah.
Which I also believe we all have the Miami Heat ending up in the 4 through 6. We all picked Boston, Milwaukee, Philly to be in that top 3 tier. So this would essentially be the Raptors finishing where they finished last year, which was the 5th seed, a couple of games ahead of the Bulls.
Yeah, if it all shakes out. And again, just like a lot of things, a lot of this is health depending, you know what I'm saying, for teams. So we'll see how it works out for them, man. But I could see it being lower. I could, you know what I'm saying? It could happen just because the East got so much better and so much more talent that's there right there. I could see them falling a little bit, but it's just I don't believe it because of what Nick Nurse is and what this team continues to do every single year. You know what I'm saying? They beat the odds every single year, man, every time we count them out. So they're like Rocky, you know what I'm saying, up there in Canada. So we'll see.
Yeah, I kind of agree, I think, to a certain extent with the middle treadmills sort of situation. I think their one path out of it is Scotty Barnes just continuing to turn into a superstar, which I think is very much, realistic. I think right now they kind of top out as the 4th seed, maybe 5th, just in terms of their style of play. And basically, if you put them in a series against any of those top 4 teams, they're not going to have the best player unless Scotty Barnes turns into that guy, which, like I said, could happen. So I think they're building the right way, just given the resources and tools that they have. And I think they're going to always be on the right trajectory until Siakam and Van Vliet are just too old. But Masai Ujiri is such a brilliant GM, and he is not afraid to make trades. You brought up the Precious Achua thing. That was in the Lowry trade with Goran Dragic. So basically, I kind of think they won that trade. Lowry just was not the same last year. They would have had to pay him a ton, and they got a good young player back that they can develop. That's sort of their recipe, and I think they're going to continue on that path, being not afraid to make tough decisions like the one that traded DeMar DeRozan to the Spurs for Kawhi. And that is how you win. You take big calculated risks and you develop players within, and hopefully it works out.
Shout out to John Doe, man. He's repping for the Raptors in the comments right here, man. He's
Hey,
going
man.
hard for us. Shout out to him, bro.
John mentioning that they had the best record against playoff teams in the NBA last year.
Bulls had the worst.
Yeah, they're really built to make life hard on some of these teams because of their length
that they
and
do.
their
Check that record of the Bulls
aggressive
versus
defensive
Raptors.
schemes.
So I'm not going to ask you guys if you think that you'll pick the Bulls to finish ahead of or behind the Raptors in the Eastern Conference this coming season. But I am curious, and I will ask you, which team do you think on paper has the more talented roster after all of the offseason moves have been completed? Which team has more talent on paper, this Bulls team or this Raptors team?
Bulls.
You say Bulls? Will,
Bulls.
what about you?
Okay, so the Bulls, I think,
I
have
say Raptors so
the
bad.
best player. The Bulls have the best player, right? And they probably...
I have the second best player as well.
You think Zach's better than Siakam
I said
and
Mike.
Van Vliet?
You can debate this. We can argue.
Yeah,
another
I think
time.
it's close. I think it's really close. But I do think in a playoff series, having the best player tips the scale. So I'll go Bulls.
And I'm loving Mark Shannon asked me earlier. I'm sorry. Side note. Yes, I'm enjoying Raw and SmackDown, what Triple H is doing, just to tell you. He asked me, and I forgot to answer. Just telling you. Yes, I'm enjoying it. Continue.
I thought wrestling was over because what's his name left.
See, that's the beauty, Matt. Wrestling's never over. All the time. All the time. On and on and on and on and on. Pandemic, whatever. All the time, baby. Wrestling don't stop.
Damon chiming in saying the Bulls have more players that can score. Max saying the Bulls have more talent, but I trust the Raptors more in the playoffs. A Bulls-Raptors playoff series would be intriguing.
That'd be fun. No, that'd be fun.
Would be intriguing.
Yeah, Bulls win, but that'd be fun.
I also know, just from watching some regular season games last year, that the Raptors and their defense did give the Bulls some trouble.
Oh, my God, yes. Remember
just like they gave everybody
Remember the Gary Trent game when he went off against the Bulls? And he lost his mind and then he got kicked out? That game, man.
Wild.
That was a great game, man. But, yeah, playing the Raptors is fun because it always comes down to that fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? And, again, what Will just said, though. It comes down to that fourth quarter. We got the king in the fourth. That was for you.
King in the fourth. Mm-hmm. The Bulls shared a tweet with a picture of DeMar and once again used the wrong saying. Bugged me for the rest of the day. Hey, whoever runs the Bulls official Twitter account, it's king in the fourth, not of, in. Show Jon Snow some damn respect.
What's your favorite era? Oh, the 90s, bro. Clearly, yeah. Attitude era. No doubt. No question.
Jason saying, sounds obvious, but so much depends on the Bulls players staying healthy, getting Lonzo back. Yeah. Why do you think we're going to break this side table the number of times that we're knocking on wood? Because that's exactly what it is. So much hangs in the balance of the Bulls having a healthy core. And it goes back to those three in particular that we talked about, Pat, Lonzo, and Alex.
And I think, but to just add on to the point I was saying earlier, like, the fact that Van Fleet is leading them in those minutes just further demonstrates how much they need another point guard on that team, man. They got to have a backup point guard in some way, shape, or form, dog. And I hope they get it because it's going to pay dividends, man. Because, I mean, Van Fleet got that contract, you know what I'm saying, everything, bro. And he's going to play because he's shout out to the home state. Shout out. He's going to play. He's a tough dude. But, my God, the body does what the body does, man.
Right.
And it's going to shut down sometimes and hurt. So, they need some help at that position.
So there it is. There is your look at the Raptors offseason, bringing back a core of good, young, talented players from last season in that picture that will likely be fighting to be above the play-in, probably not quite good enough to fight their way into that top three. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. They could be one of those teams neck and neck with the Bulls in that 4, 5, 6 range. That's it for today. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Stay tuned. Keep it right here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We got Cubs postgame coming up. They are trying to hold off the Nats for a win. The Cubs were down 2-0 most of the game. Came back, scored some runs. They're up 4-2 in the bottom of the 8th right now. Come on, Cubbies. Close it out. Stay here for Cubs postgame. Then we got CHGO bets coming up later today. Then we got Sox pre and post bookending. White Sox, Royals. Here it is for you, always. CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow in studio, same time, same place, 3 p.m. Chicago time. Will be back in the Magic Circle.
Yes, he will.
And it's Thursday, so we're going to have some fun.
We're going to have some fun. Thrilling chill,
Until
baby.
then, you can follow us on Twitter, CHGO_Bulls, BOW, BAWL Sports, Won't Gottlieb, Bulls_Peck, /Steakface.
He's just taking it. He's claiming it.
It will be mine.
Yes.
Oh, Joey a little slow on the uptick on the faces.
Yeah, he got it. Yeah.
What is Joey working on over there?
He's stealing the ball from you on the other time.
Joey, I got to know, before we get out of here, what have you been working on?
Justin Steele, pitching well, Man of Steel graphic for Cody over there. But
okay.
He's helping y'all out?
Joey helps everybody.
Yeah, he does.
That's what he does.
He's a team player. That's why he came in
on
on
I'm focused. I'm focused.
He's got it all, man.
All right, well, so for Will, for Dave, for Joey, I'm Peck. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
You like that one? It's smaller.
I saw it. That's
doesn't
brilliant.
take over the
Will, stay safe down there in Brazil. We'll talk to you tomorrow, buddy, okay?
Peace.
See Red, be good, Bulls Nation.